Check one, two, three. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. Okay, my guest today is a production sound mixer based out of the San Francisco Bay Area in California. Please welcome Stephen Lagosh.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Awesome.
All right, Stephen, so let's talk a little bit about what's in your audio kit. So kind of give us a rundown of your mics and your mixer and everything in between.
Sure. Right now I have a bag rig, and the rig is a Cantar Mini. That's the home base for me right now. And I have a Lectrosonics DCR822 receiver for my wireless. I run two SMVs right now at the moment. I also have a UM400A for a wireless boom setup if I want to through an MM1. My microphones, I have an MKH-50 and a 416 because the reason why I keep the 416 it sounds really good and it's bulletproof. My wireless microphones are right now COS-11s. I do have some B6s and B3s. I like them the way the B6 sounds when they're exposed and stuff like that. But yeah, I do enjoy a DPA microphone. I like the COS-11s because they're a little more robust, a little harder to break. And that's kind of what I want to build my kit out, is make it as rugged as possible, so I don't mind using the equipment as much.
All right. So what kind of timecode boxes do you like?
Oh yeah, I have the Tentacle Syncs right now. I used to have the timecode buddy system. I upgraded to the Tentacle Syncs. I like them because the Bluetooth capabilities on it. If I have to make a switch adjustment on a timecode or whatever, I can just easily go next to the camera, use Bluetooth, don't have to worry about bothering camera unplugging and adding a new locket box or whatever. But I do like the JB ones from Deneki, the really small ones, like a quarter. Those are really nice as well. I've used those as well. I find that camera people ask for Tentacles by name, so it's like I want to give them what they want to make sure they're happy as well.
So have you always worked with the Kantar, or is that something new?
This is something brand new. Back in November, I was robbed. My old kit was a 633 with two 411s, and I had some money saved to the side. I was going to upgrade either to the 8 series or the Kantar. And both are great machines, the 8 series and the Cantar Mini as well. But I decided to go with the Kantar because for me it's a little more customizable than the 8 series is sound devices wise. I really enjoy its interface. It's got a D25 out, so I can make as many outs as I want analog wise. Also the D15 for the AES ins and outs on the side, so I can really make it customized in a bag or a cart situation. It's a machine I can grow with. Not to say that the 8 series is something I couldn't grow with as well. At the time when I was looking at getting a new machine last November, I saw a few people selling their 833s, so on and so forth. It was more of like, oh, people are hanging on to their Kantars, the machines a lot more. And I did a bunch of different media posts and videos were coming out, people using the Kantar X3 on their carts and stuff like that. And I want to get into more narrative work, so I wanted to make sure I knew the ecosystem of the Kantar as well. So I know the ecosystem for sound devices, I know the ecosystem for the Kantar series now, so I can kind of interchange, and if I'm needed to ask about a setting on set or something like that, or if a mixer wants to go to use the bathroom, I can run the Kantar series as well, depending what they need or what they want. And the cool thing about it is it does give me a little more attention on set, because the camera guys, is that Aaton? Like, don't they make cameras? Like, well, they used to. Like, now they make a really good machine, and they're always so impressed. And always jumps up a good conversation starter.
Interesting. Now, I saw some of your Instagram posts, and you actually, I guess you can wear it around your neck or in a bag.
Currently trying to get a bag made for it. I've talked to a few companies, and right now I'm thinking about leaning towards Protogear. They seem to have it on a lockdown for a bag for this machine, and their community is just super supportive, and the communication back and forth has been great. So I think I'm just going to order a Protogear bag and see how that feels.
I mean, I understand the Kantar is so customizable. So how would you describe that to somebody that's a 633 or an 8 series user?
For me, I wanted something a little different. So if you're going from a 6 series to what I did to the Kantar, it is an entire different ecosystem. It's a different menu system. It's a different way of working. It's a different workflow. It took me maybe a couple weeks to a month to get used to using the Kantar. But now it's just like, again, second nature, just like you would in the 6 series as well. And I was trained on sound devices in college. I started with a 722. And then my first machine I ever bought was a 744T, and that was stolen as well. And then I ended up buying the 633 with some money that was given to me by my classmates because my 744T was stolen while I was in college. They set up a GoFundMe for me. I was very honored and very thankful they did that for me. And I was able to get that machine, and that was a rock solid machine for me all the way through to when it was taken from me. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about sound devices, but I just wanted to make sure that I knew the entire ecosystem, and that includes like Zaxcom mixers as well, if I want to get into more of utility or boom operator role on set. But yeah, so moving from a 6 series to the Kantar, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get it, you get it. I mean, it does all the same things the 8 series does. Give and take here or there, a couple features. But I really enjoy it, and it sounds so good. Like the headphone preamp in it is amazing, and just the actual noise floor of the Melody preamps they have is just amazing. I can't say enough good things about the machine, and the fact that it has 4 preamps in it, and it has ambio capabilities now, it gives me the opportunity to go out and record some Ambiosonics if I want to, if it's something I want to get into, and I do want to record some more sound effects and things like that as well. I guess they use Ambiosonics a lot for video games now, because video games have 3D audio. And there's a few companies here in the Bay Area I'd like to approach and see if they needed something recorded maybe. But this machine allows me to do that as well. And it sounds weird, but the screen is so big on it, and I can see exactly what I need right when I need it. And it's all there. And it's just clear as day, and I don't have to with the 633, my eyes were getting kind of bad, so I had to squint and kind of find and see what I'm looking for. Here with the Kantar, easily the screen is folds out. It's up in front of me, and it's at a glance, I know exactly what I'm looking for and what I need in terms of information on it.
That's cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about like the theft situation. So you got robbed a couple of times?
Yeah, so the first time, it wasn't me personally. It was during college. I had a small 744T in a bag, a petrol bag I had purchased from, I think, B&H while I was in college. This was like 2015, 16. And the producer was shooting his short film for one of his projects and needed the mixer because the equipment cage was out, and he had helped me on my senior thesis project. And I was like, hey, just use my mixer. I've got to go to work. At the time, I'd worked at In-N-Out. And he's like, yeah, sweet. And I trained someone to use it for him for the weekend, and he was at the bus stop going to bring it back to me to school that day. And 2 guys in a car pulled up at the bus stop and pointed a gun at him and said, give me the bag. And he did the right thing and said, yeah, take it. I'm not going to lie, it sucked at the time, but I'm just glad he was okay. And it all worked out in the end. I find that happens over and over again. It's going to be fine. It'll all work out. That led my classmates to know the story got around school, and they started a GoFundMe for me, and they were able to raise a bunch of funds for me to get a new machine. And I ended up getting enough to get a 633. And I went ahead and bought that brand new because the mixer is the heart of the whole system. You got to make sure it works good. That's why I want to buy those things brand new. And it's something you got to trust. And I really liked using the sound devices in college. They sounded great, and I knew the menu systems already, and it's what I knew, and I really enjoyed using those machines. The second time I got robbed, I didn't lose my mixer. I got robbed twice in one night. It's just one half of it was my fault. The other half was, production's fault. But I don't want to make anyone sound bad, but I had a timecode slate on set, and the AC gave the slate to a PA, and a PA set it down. And we were shooting in a bar. We were shooting 5 comedians doing improv. And at the end of the night, they would go and talk to their guests. So here I'm running 5 wires with 3 cameras going around in a room. I'm trying to stay focused to make sure levels are good, and I'm picking up what I need to be picking up for all these different conversations with 3 different cameras at 3 different spots. It was one of those projects where hey, I don't have much money, but I needed the experience. I was like, cool, I want to challenge myself. But they handed the slate to a PA. The PA put it on a table, and they didn't know. And I'm pretty sure someone at the bar was like, oh, this is a cool little thing, whatever piece of cinema, and just took it, not knowing what it was or how much it was worth. And then after all that happened, I got back to my car, And it was the third night of shooting this thing, and I had found out all my backup. I had a Zoom H6 as my first recorder in college, but that was in a case in my car with a bunch of extra cables and things like that. Things I didn't need for the shoot because we had to park, like, I think 4 blocks away. And I didn't want to carry it all back into the comedy club and back out each night for the 3 nights. So the third night, I was like, it's fine. I'll just leave it in the car. And of course, my fault, tempted the thieves. They broke into my car, busted my windows, and took all my equipment. Cops came like, oh, we can dust for prints, but all we can do right now is give you a police report. So that's how it is. Yeah, and this last time I was shooting for, I won't say any names just to make sure everyone says anonymous, but we were going to shoot in someone's apartment, and it was during COVID. Social distancing was a thing. Client in the apartment didn't want too many people inside, which is understandable. So what we did, we decided to was set up on the sidewalk and then bring in the equipment with one person at a time, and then when we shoot, just have 2 people in the room. We were setting up 2 cameras on the sidewalk, and I was sending feed via XLR. So I was just, had my bag plugged into the cameras, checking tone, things like that. There's about 10 people on crew, I think 4 on agency and 6 crew. And the guys showed up. We're all distanced, like 6 feet apart. And the funny thing was the client was getting tested at the time, so she had to swab up her nose. The car pulls up. The guy in the passenger seat gets out, points the gun at me, and says, "Give me the cameras." And I look up, I go, "Oh, your cameras?" Take them. Yeah, sure. Guy in the back seat gets out, takes the equipment. He's pointing the gun at all of us at the time, and throws in the back seat. And I realize the XLRs are attached to the cameras. So the guy points the gun at me, goes, "Give me the bag." And I was like, "Sure." Toss the bag on the ground, and it was painful. What I wanted my 633 to break, right? So I kind of threw it on his face, It was like a knee-jerk reaction, but they took it, and then they couldn't get all the XLRs in the car, so they slammed the car door, and then they drive away, and the one of the XLRs is just sparking down the street outside the side of the door. But it was traumatic at the time. I can laugh about it now, but at the time it was like, oh my gosh, right? Do I really want to do this? But it all worked out. Of course, they had insurance, everything was covered, and we all got our gear back and things like that. Not the actual gear, we all replaced it with the insurance money. But yeah, that led me to doing a lot of research into new mixers, because I really, really did like the 633 a lot, but I didn't feel that the 8 series gave enough in terms of extras, and I wanted to diversify my product knowledge in terms of trying to find different ecosystems to know and work with. And there's a reason people were moving to Kantar, and I liked the X1, X2 series a lot, and the people over at Kantar making the machines seemed super passionate about the machine. And then I found out, I'm a recently new dad. I had a baby in last June, and I found out the loading screen that says Kantar was written by one of the kids of the designers of the machine. And I thought that was really, really neat and touching. So it's kind of like, all right, I want to get this machine tried out. Also, a mixer in the area has an X3 that I work with a lot, and he was showing me the ins and outs of it, and I was just thinking about it left and right. I called a bunch of different companies to look at the machine, and some of them didn't want to send me out one, but Gotham Sound was like, "Hey, we'll send you a rental out. Don't worry about paying for it. Just if you want to try it out, take it." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So I sent it out, and I got to use it, and I fell in love with the machine. So now I'm using the Kantar series and loving every day with it. And I learn something new about it every day. And it's just a really powerful and awesome machine to use.
Wow. Well, what would you recommend people do to avoid, any kind of, theft of their gear?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would recommend making sure to have security, and that you have all your insurance papers. Make sure you have a certificate for insurance, and just making sure the crew you're shooting with is, good people. The crew I was shooting with were awesome. They offered to cut me a check the next day. I didn't need that, so I just wait to go through the insurance process. But the producer was like, "Hey, I'll take my personal money and make sure you get your machine to keep working," and I was really appreciative of that. And when you're shooting outside, just be aware. There's crime rings going around. They scout you out, and then once you're scouted, don't be in one location too long. I mean, there's really nothing you can do to avoid it, though. I mean, if it's going to happen, it was 10 a.m., broad daylight. It was in a pretty big neighborhood in San Francisco, a pretty affluent area, the Marina. And, you think, oh, there's no way to get robbed here. This is where rich people live, right? This doesn't happen here. But they didn't care. It was 10 a.m. There was 10 people around, plenty of witnesses, cameras on all the houses and stuff like that. I mean, there's just nothing you can do to avoid it. The only thing I knew was like, okay, just stay calm and give them what they want.
Don't try to be a hero and fight them or something.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be a hero. You don't need to do that.
Wow, man. Well, speaking of insurance, so you have I take property insurance for the gear as well as liability insurance.
Yeah, I have insurance through Athos, and that's a good company. I have a yearly plan with them. And in California, there's a law called AB-5, which requires 1099 workers to oversimplify it, is to basically become an LLC or some kind of business entity. The law was designed to help Uber, Lyft drivers become employees and get paid that way. But with the new prop that came out, they were able to skirt around it. But the other independent contractors like ourselves were kind of caught in the crossfire between these two. So now we have to, in order for us to, you can't really be a 1099 worker, so you have to be a business. And so and your insurances are different now. So you're insuring a business instead of an individual. Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork.
Well, I'm glad you got some gear now that's working for you. And
yeah, that's probably why like my pictures, like I don't have a bag for it yet. They don't really make a bag for a Mini, any company that I know of. So I went and seen Ken Martini of Film Devices about making a bag possibly. Then I saw Proto Gear, and I love their stuff there too. And mixer cages are great. It just is a system I didn't want to use. I'm not the nicest to my equipment. I like to use it. I think that the Proto Gear maybe has a little more protection on it. But then again, I haven't tested either one option.
Well, let's talk about some of the projects you've worked on. I see you mentioned you day played on 13 Reasons Why for Netflix. So kind of tell us about that experience.
So I day played on season 3 and season 4. Only for a few days, like we're talking maybe 4-5 days max. So not too long, but I got to day play for the mixer. His name's Scott Kinsey. He's awesome. I had no big set experience. And he's like, "Oh, come on out, and I need someone to replace this guy for a day." And like, sure, I'll run cable and make sure the boom op's all taken care of, and making sure the mixer's taken care of, and got to shoot some pretty cool scenes. It was my first time seeing a light shot up in a balloon. I can't remember what they're called. That was pretty interesting to see, but it was cool to see how a set of that magnitude operates, to be a part of the machine making this, and all the different setups we got to do, all the different got to put my hands on a lot of different gear I haven't never used before, and it was a great learning experience for me to just get in there. It's nerve-wracking when the first time you're like, "Hey, I need you to second boom this for me." Like, "Oh, okay." Here, take this boom, go over there and point it there. Oh, okay, sweet. Get over there. They got 3 cameras pointed to you. It's like a huge production. And you're like, "Oh my God, I don't want to get in frame." I better make sure to get my boom out when they come closer to each other. Like your brain's going 1,000 miles an hour, and you're like, you don't want to mess up. But it was, I had a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was exhilarating. The second time I got to work on it for season 4 was on the stages. So the first one was like outside doing exteriors, and it was cool to see the stages, how they were just able, like, all right, let's pull the wall out. Like, oh shoot, a couple screws and the whole wall's gone. Like, that makes it easy. Like, it was a life-changing experience for me, and it's something I want to be a part of.
Anything like specific you took away from after having done that?
Yeah, just that teamwork makes the dream work, right? Like making sure that everyone works well together, and that it's okay to mess up because you always have a chance to fix it, right? That's the thing I took away from it. Not to stress myself out so much, because no matter what, mistakes will get made, and people know that. They're not going to berate you or make you feel smaller or tell you you're never going to work here again, kind of thing. That's what the perception you get on working these big sets, right? And the people I worked with were very kind and very accommodating, and that's what the general consensus I have between different sound departments I get to work with, is that it's a very welcoming community.
Yeah, that's good when it's a positive experience.
Yeah, very positive for me.
Now, let's see, you also worked on a Disney Plus series called Pick of the Litter?
Yeah, that was a reality series shot up here in the Bay Area. I was number 3 of 3 sound people on the crew. So I basically got the day play on that. So one of the other 2 individuals weren't available to mix those days. I got to come in and do stuff. Or if we did double team kind of things, or 2-sided phone calls. So yeah, that was a reality series about seeing eye dogs for the blind. And we get to follow these dogs from puppies to adults over the 8 months or so of shooting. And I got to work through them towards the middle of the program. So I got to see how the dogs are being trained, what they have to go through in terms of learning how to cross the street, or what tests they have to take, what commands they give, and things like that. And it was a challenge, and it was awesome because you're outside all day, every day, and they're seeing eye dogs meant for people for the blind. So sometimes you're miking up people who can't see. So remember, you got to tell yourself, oh, I'm telling them what I'm doing, right? Like I'm putting my hands here on your back, kind of thing. I'm putting the pack here on your belt. I'm winding up the cable, and just like learning that whole process of making sure to explain. And something I carried on from that set is whenever I mic someone up now, like, okay, I'm going to put this microphone on your shirt. Is that okay? I'm going to put the cable down through here. And sometimes I get from talent like, dude, do whatever you need to do. Just, get it done. Sometimes it's like, you don't need to tell me everything. Like, I get it. But yeah, from that show, it was really cool to get to work with so many different, a range of people, trainers, dogs, clients that would eventually get the dogs. And just seeing how it changes families and changes lives was really rewarding. And one of the last days I shot with was the big graduation ceremony. So all 3 sound people were there, and it was good to work with other sound people, because on those jobs you're usually by yourself, right? It's a bag and boom situation. And it was just nice to get to kind of like work as a team again.
That's cool. Yeah, another project you worked on was it's a documentary, Free as Can Be.
Oh yeah, that was actually Free as Can Be. That I did post on that one.
Okay.
That was from an individual in college. Sam Crossley was the director of that one, and he does all the climbing cinematography. I think he worked on, what's the one that was for National Geographic? I can't remember the name of it, but he worked on that one a little bit in capacity and was able to kind of snowball himself into that role. And he remembered that in college, I was like the sound person, right? I'm sure a lot of people have a similar story where like you go to school, not very many people want to work in the sound department, and you get known as the sound person or the sound guy or whatever. And so I guess that reputation carried through for him, and he called me up. It's like, hey, I've got posts on this. And he did all the sound himself, which was very impressive because it sounded good, like his recordings and things like that, and he really paid attention to it. I wish I could be on the side of the mountain recording sound, but that's just a little logistically a little harder to do. But yeah, it was a cool experience to get to do that and be able to make it a small mix for him, and it was really just a good project.
All right. You mentioned earlier, you have a 10-month-old child. So how is it working and still having a family?
It's challenging at times. I've been blessed with the pandemic. I tell people I was very lucky to have a kid during the pandemic because there's less work that was going around for everyone. I got to spend a lot more time with him. Work's picking up right now, so it's getting a little more difficult between home life and work life. And childcare is super hard to find in the Bay Area, and it's very expensive. So my wife, we made a decision if she wanted to stay home, she could, and she decided to stay home, be a stay-home mom. So she stays home, takes care of him when I go off to do these jobs. And yeah, it works out pretty good for us where we're at. We currently live in a small apartment here in San Leandro, which is a suburb of Oakland, and just take it day by day, right? And the work comes in, and all right, you available? What are your plans for next week? Because I got 3 days I got called for or stuff like that. And then it's really cool I got to see him grow. A lot of people don't get to see their kids grow like they did for the first few months because there's so much changing. He was born in June, and I didn't work until August. So I got the first 2 months of just like awesome baby raising. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like I'm very, very fortunate and grateful I got that opportunity to see him grow. But now work's picking up, and I gotta be able to pay rent now. So I gotta get out there and do what I can do to support the family, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, I made a lot of I wouldn't even call them sacrifices, but decisions to be there. I have 2 daughters, and to be there as they were growing up, and I probably, I don't even once again, I don't even want to say I missed out on some stuff, but I chose to be with the family because I want my kids to remember me, and that not Dad's working again or where's Dad? Well, he's not here, So there'll be some of that.
Yeah, I grew up with a father that's a truck driver, and that's growing up. He's always gone. It sucked. But the time you had with him was very precious. So it was super exciting. And I want the same thing for my family. So it's I want to make sure that I get to see these things, and that I think this line of work lets you do that at times. Other times when it rains, it pours, right? You got so much work coming in, you don't know what to do. It's coming out of your ears. And other times I haven't worked in 2 weeks. I got to spend 2 weeks with my kid, which is really cool.
Man. Now, did you start off playing music? Were you in a band?
Yeah, I was, I guess marching band was my thing growing up. I played tuba And I did that for about 15 years. Went through elementary school, middle school, high school, and then eventually college. And in college, actually playing the tuba is what got me into filmmaking, because the college I went to, Riverside City College in Southern California, they were known as Hollywood's band, right? So every time Hollywood needed a band for something, whatever, we got called out and got to go out and shoot stuff. So I was in a couple of Verizon commercials for the Macy's Day Parade. I was in an extra in a movie called Fired Up. And that was really cool set to be on, is like, because you got to see the whole inner workings. Like, this is actually kind of cool, like, work. I don't think this, growing up for me, I grew up in the Southern California, in the desert, the high desert, out in the Barstow area. So my prospects were like, oh, I better land a good job at, being a manager, something like In-N-Out, or being a manager of like a grocery store or something like that. That was my big goal in life. I didn't think I'd ever be good enough to work in the movie industry, right? But then I got on these sets, and it was just like, it was something I really wanted to be a part of. And it was just always in the back of my head, right? And you go on and go forward, and I got to a point where I was like, I can't play tuba for a career. Like, there's like one tuba player per major city, and they play until they're like in their 90s. So like they never retire. So if I wanted to do that for a living, it'd be very, very difficult. And I didn't think I would have the drive or passion enough playing tuba to do that. So I did college, played tuba in college, and then I did this youth activity called Drum Corps International. I was able to march with a group called the Bluecoats. And they were based out of Ohio, and I got to see the country, and I thought, this is really cool. I'd like to have a job that travels a little bit. And then I, again, thought back to film, and then you get to go to locations you normally wouldn't get to go, and do some pretty cool things, and it just kind of like clicked. And my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, it was 2011, I think. We're watching TV, and an ad came on for Academy of Art University. Come to San Francisco and learn to make movies and video games. And I was heavily into video games at the time. Like, I could do sound for video games, like, because I found out I liked using my ears. That's why I liked music so much. I liked using listening, and I wanted to make a career of using my ears. And so I said, you know what, let's just apply to go to this college, right? So we applied, and it's a private college, so yeah, we got in. And we finished up our GEs, moved up here in 2012. We both got into the financial aid office of the school, and because it was a private university, the price tag for what was supposed to be 2 years turned into 3, of course, because they didn't take half the classes we needed from community college. They're like, oh, it won't be that expensive. It'll only be about $110,000 when you're done. I was just like, for each of us. So we would be a total of $220,000 in student debt. And that just like a big pit in your stomach. And then the mind takes over, like, well, maybe you should just be a manager somewhere. Maybe you should just try to see if In-N-Out managers it's a great career. And it's a great company to work for. And I was like, I'll just do that instead. Maybe it's not for me. And so I was working at the San Francisco location at In-N-Out, and one of the checkers, one of the people that works cash register, was a student at SF State, and she was in the cinema section. And I didn't really ever take any cinema classes at City College or anything like that. And she's like, oh, just come on out and meet people and check it out and see if you like it or not. And I was like, cool, what do you guys do? Like, oh, every Sunday we play Ultimate Frisbee. I was like, okay, I'll come out. And so Sunday, I came out and played Ultimate Frisbee with a bunch of the cinema people from SF State. And they're like, yeah, dude, you want to do sound? They need you. They want sound people like super bad. I'm like, but I don't have any like background in cinema. I haven't taken any like theory courses or done anything in that respect. And they're like, no, just apply. So I went ahead and applied, and like, yeah, you're in. I was like, cool, I guess I'm doing this now. So started going to school at SF State, much more affordable in terms of price. And the program was really good, I found out. So I ended up being really lucky and decided, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it 100%. So I poured all my extra energy, hours, and time. I was working, 45 to 50 hours a week at In-N-Out to pay for living expenses and stuff like that and school. And every time I had a day off, I'd like, oh, what's a project I can get on? Let me just see if I can, do you guys need sound for this? I would go talk to the equipment manager down at the state. So he knew me personally. Like, hey, is someone using the 722 this weekend? Can I, maybe get that? And a G3 and maybe a 416. He was like, yeah, take it out. That's no problem. And the school was super accommodating. They had excellent post facilities. They had a 7-1 mix room, a whole set of Foley stages. They had a stereo playback, stage, movie theaters to use. And every chance I had, I was like, oh, let me get in here and see how this works. This is the HD native for Pro Tools. This is how the ins and outs. This is why the speaker works this way. and I took all the sound classes they offered, but I also got a pretty well-rounded education in cinema. So I was able to learn exactly where the sound fits in the overall picture, and to realize that cinema is a visual medium, yes, but sound is also half the picture. And without sound, the pictures don't make sense, right? They wanted the sound so much, they would put a guy playing piano in front of a silent film to make it even that much more interesting. But it was cool to see exactly how sound fits, and I gained a knowledge of knowing when I should worry about something being needed on set and something not being needed. Like, oh, I know in the post-process, like, no, they're definitely going to want to add and change that. So I don't need to be stressing out about that. What I do need to be stressing out about is the fact that they're wearing windbreakers, that kind of stuff. I had a really well-rounded education at San Francisco State and hit the ground running. Was able to find a bunch of mixtures in the local, and the power of a lunch and a beer is understated. So whenever I had a chance, like, hey, can I buy you lunch? I could pick your brain a little bit. And that led to making a bunch of relationships and connections in the Bay Area, and eventually becoming a part of the community. And that's what the biggest thing for me was, being a part of this community, which is awesome.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, you went all in. You weren't just going, I might do this. I mean, you went in, and every opportunity you did something.
Exactly. And I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, it was amazing. It gets kind of nerve-wracking because we get known as the sound person on campus, and like a professor will try to like trip you up and ask you a question like, what does phantom power mean? And you're like, oh, I don't know, but I'm supposed to know. I'm the sound person, right? I don't want to make myself look bad. So then I go home and I extra study, like find out what exactly those 48 volts and stuff like that it all means and how it works in a microphone. And yeah, it was a trip because I didn't think I was worthy enough to work in the industry and that I was going to be good enough, So I feel like I had to do a lot of extra makeup for it. I didn't have any family that was in the industry per se or anything like that. And I was lucky enough to be in a marching band that sometimes got to be on set. And I got to, it's like a wall. You're an extra. You're that much further removed from the production, but you're just like kind of like it's like a fishbowl effect. You're like watching it from the outside in. And you're like, oh, it's cool. And I watch the boom operator. I'm like, dang, that's how does he know not to get in the frame kind of thing, all that stuff. And because of that, like I would take camera classes and learn what lenses do what and how they work. And so I would be able to better place the boom. And, of course, I always get in the shot. That's part of the job, right?
Right. You got to do it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. One mixer told me, he's like, if you don't get the boom in the shot, you're not doing your job.
Yeah. I was working with this guy, and he's still a student, and he was doing some boom work for me, and I just, one of them I was thinking, man, he really is low, but I just let it, and then I let the DP was like, all right, boom in the shot, and let him adjust. At first I was gonna tell him, but I just kind of wanted him to experience that because he needs to, and they weren't harsh on him, so that was pretty good. So, well, did you have any mentors that kind of helped you kind of get started?
Oh yeah, there's a man his name is Keenan Jensen, and he's a mentor of mine, and he'll like, hey, I'm making cables this week. You want to come by and make some cables? Like, yeah, I want to come by and learn how to solder. Like, and he was the utility on 13 Reasons for I think 3 seasons, and he's more well connected and input in the Bay Area here, and he's now branching off, becoming a mixer himself. He lives like down the road, so like every chance I get, I go over to this place and like, hey, well, what's this microphone? What's this do? Kind of thing, or like, and he's the one that has the Kantar X3. And he was like, oh, I want to get a Mini for a bag situation. So we started looking up together and like finding out how the Mini would work in a bag situation. It just works pretty good. Every time he's got a job, it's like, hey, I'm busy this day. Are you available? Kind of thing. And it can pass work. He's one mentor I had. The very first mentor I had out of college was a man by the name of Peter Van Scherp. He's since retired. And he retired a few months after I graduated, maybe 8-9 months after I graduated. And it was like, I'm retiring. Here's some of my contacts if you're available. And I've made some pretty good contacts with them, producers and stuff. And one of them I actually really enjoy. Maybe once a month for about 6 months of the year, we get to go record the local theaters. So ACT is a theater program here in San Francisco, and they have 2 major theaters. And I get to go watch Broadway, basically once a month, even though it's not pandemic times. And just get to sit there and record and watch a show. It's amazing. And it's just a lot of fun. I get to see acting in a different way and a different process of entertainment. It's really cool. He retired, gave me those contacts, and then would go and ask different mixers out. And I asked Scott Kinsey about maybe going to get some lunch. went and got some lunch with the guy, and the next thing I know, a couple weeks down, he's like, "Hey, this guy Keenan, he's got another job or schedule overlap or something. He couldn't work the day. He's like, you want to come out and run some cable?" I was like, hell yeah, I want to come out and run some cable. What do you need? Like, and then that got me started in there with on 13. Yeah, I'm very, very thankful, and yeah, just super ecstatic about that. And the fact that LA isn't so far away. Sometimes if I'm lucky enough, I'll get to go down for a mixer or something, and just get to meet other mixers down in LA and just talk shop and have a good time there as well. It's being in California is pretty cool for that aspect of it.
Man, yeah, that's all of us. Somebody had to give us a chance, or we wouldn't be doing this.
Exactly. Yeah, and I can't wait to pay it forward and give that chance to someone else in the future.
Yeah. Okay, so we always ask, what's your worst on-set experience?
Aside from the comedy club night I did, this is maybe a little worse than that night because it involves equipment getting broken. So this production came up to the Bay Area shooting about a week's worth of exterior sometimes. But for some reason they decided to do it in a studio up here. I guess the director lived in the area or whatever. But so we did a week's worth of exteriors and 3 days in a studio. In California, the weather doesn't get too hot unless you're in the deserts. But here, for some reason, it was a freak summer. It got to like 90 degrees with some humidity, but you're in Florida. I mean, I shouldn't be complaining about this at all. But we were in the studio, and they had an RV they had parked inside the studio. So it was already hot inside the studio, and it was very hot inside this RV. And there was a cast of 4 people, all had speaking roles on camera, inside a small, I want to say a Winnebago. A Winnebago from the 70s or early 80s. So it was very, very old and smelt of just kind of glue and plastic. But that wasn't like the worst part of it. The whole entire film was called Dip Run. And for me, I didn't know what dip was. So when I took the project, I was a little surprised to find out what it was. And I guess for someone who doesn't know, like me, a dip is chewing tobacco. And it was sponsored by the guy who makes mud jugs. And so we're in this tiny RV inside of a studio, and it's like 95 degrees or whatever. Everyone's sweating like crazy and doing chewing tobacco and spitting in mud jugs. So everywhere you move, there's a jug full of spit and chewing tobacco, and it just smells of rancid, I want to say like vomit almost. And I'm in there trying not to lose my lunch the whole time we're shooting. And you're up next to these people who are super close. You hit some guy's arm and you just come back with all the sweat on you. And then you kind of step back a little bit. And I step back, I jerk back a little bit, hit a mud jug, and it fell over. And mud jugs are, I guess, notorious. You can't spill them. So thank God they didn't spill. But I was gearing up for the scene in the script where one of the characters gets hit with dip spit, I guess, in the film. And they didn't tell me they were going to move on to that scene, and I should have been more proactive in it. But my mind was elsewhere. I was trying not to get spit on me and making sure that I was out of the way of everything and trying to get the sweat out of my eyes, right? So the scene is coming up, and I asked the DP, I'm like, is this a spit scene? Is this a spit scene? He goes, no. This is just a wide of it. And no one had communicated this to talent not to actually do it because they wanted to get in the close-up. Let me know, hey, your mic's going to be okay. Keep it on the guy. The DP didn't say that, but I was thinking that in my head. But no one communicated this to talent, and they filled up this jug full of coffee, so it wasn't actual dip spit. And they start the scene up, and they're bantering left and right, back and forth from across the RV. And I'm focusing on get the boom across, not hitting the ceiling, not getting in the shot. And of course, they want to do a wide shot of it, and I'm just trying to get the guy on the left in the back corner at the table it says a line, and the guy on the couch right next to the front of the camera says a line. So I got to somehow get the boom retracted all the way back, and they go through the scene, and they're supposed to cut just before, but the director doesn't say cut, so the talent just keeps going with it. And the guy takes the mud jug, and I don't know if it was a real one, or a real dip spit or coffee or something, but it was full. That's all I know. And he takes it, and it gets splashed on the guy, and it destroys my lav. And it almost got to the pack. And the talent's like, sorry, dude. I felt bad for him because he's covered in this nasty brown juice. And I was like, yeah, that sucks, dude. But you're not the one out a couple $100 here. At the time, it was only the microphones that come with G3s. but it wasn't my equipment. It was equipment I was borrowing. So now I got to explain to my buddy, I borrowed this G3 for the shoot, that, hey, your mic's broken. And I go to production, and there was a lot of stuff I didn't know about. I guess there's some bad blood between the AD and the director. Later on that week, I guess the AD left and told the crew not to come on because of some argument you had with the director. Anyways, drama for whatever else. We ended up finishing everything. But I was told by the AD I wasn't going to get reimbursed for this microphone because it was in the script that this happened, so I should have prepared for it, right? And I guess there's some truth to that. I should have just maybe not done any wires for the whole show and just did boom and said good luck with it in post, right? Anyways, once the director, so he never told the director that this happened, so the director never even knew. Later on in the week, I got to the director, and when he found out, oh my gosh, because it was like a last day, he was writing checks out to everyone, and he's like, I'm gonna pay for it right now. Oh, how much was it? And he said, and I told him, I was like, show him the listing and everything. He's like, okay, cool. And he gave me enough money to buy 2. And I was like, oh, dude, I appreciate that. Situation turned into from as terrible, oh my God, I lost a microphone. At the time, I was still working in and out, and that was half a week's pay gone because some dude threw some brown water on a microphone that wasn't mine. And it was just gross, and it just smelled bad. And the thing is, a bunch of dudes with no deodorant on. The humor was very, very crude. It wasn't my best moment, I guess, mixing, but at the time, it was necessary growth, and it was more experience for me. The funny thing was I was able to get a boom op because there was a half a day where I couldn't do the mixing. So I said, if I get a boom op, just pay him. I'll work for free for my whatever couple hours, and he'll take over. And that day they had an ex-porn star on set. So my boom op's trying to mic her up. And he's new at it too. And, so we're both a couple of new guys. But he's going over to this woman, and she's like, all right, go ahead and mic me up. And she kind of disrobes in front of him, and he wasn't ready for it. And then all of a sudden he gets super nervous. His hands are shaking. And he's like, I don't want to ruin my career. I don't want to be known as a pervy person. And she picks up on this. She says to him, honey, there ain't nowhere you can touch me that I haven't been touched. Just do what you need to do. And he came back to me. He's like, I hate you. I don't want to do that ever again. Yeah, I was super stressed the whole time and wanted to throw up a lot. And I'll never do chewing tobacco. I mean, if one of the guys that was acting in it had his own brand of chewing tobacco, so he just kept giving it out to everyone. Everyone on the set, 5 seconds, spitting and everything, and it's just God, it's like.
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I get chills thinking about it.
Cool, yeah, thanks for sharing, man. Well, out of all the projects you've worked on, what's been your all-time favorite?
There's a couple. I really do enjoy features a lot, and the 2 features come to mind for me. One we did while the pandemic was starting, so early March, late February last year. That was Red Snow. We got to shoot up in Tahoe, and as the name suggests, snow. It was snow everywhere, which was amazing. It was such a tight crew. Everyone got along, and it was tough because it's indie feature. It's way less than $1 million, whatever. It's the director. It's his life savings. He wants to make this feature. Can you do it for this rate? Yeah, of course I can go up and do it for this rate. I want to make sure that stuff happens, right? I don't want indie film to die out, or this could be this director's big break, and if I want to make sure he's able to get what he needs or what he wants for his project. So we got to go up in Tahoe, shoot in the snow. I really like that extreme weather stuff. A dream gig for me would be to do something for National Geographic. I would love to go to Antarctica or something crazy like that, right? Record the penguins. The DP was super nice and receptive and a great person. The AC was a good friend of mine. The gaffer was a good friend of mine. In fact, the gaffer got me the gig. The costume department, makeup, they're also doubled as art department for the sets and everything, which was and it was just myself shooting this feature up in the cabin for 2.5 weeks. The days off, we'd go find slopes and drink beer, and sled down the bottom of the hill, and just have a good time shooting. And the talent and acting they were super nice, and it was just a great project to be a part of. And it was all about vampires and snow. So it was a super great project. And when I do those projects, I always ask, hey, who's your post person? like editor and like sound as well. Because I like to call the post people and say, how do you want your files? What do you want me to record? Do you want me to record how the doors sound, or do you want me to just WD-40 all the hinges and make sure they sound like nothing, right? Of course, they don't want it to be over dialogue, but like depending on the budget, they use the sound from set because they don't have the time to hire an editor or to search through all these different sound libraries. And 9 times out of 10, they go, oh, no, we don't know anyone yet. Do you want to do it? And I was like, well, I do enjoy post, but like I don't want to take that work from someone who really wants to do it. Like, but it comes around to post time. They give me a call like, hey, you still interested? I'm like, I guess I'm still interested. Is there anyone else? In the Bay Area is such a small community. It's not really too much in terms of post. And the ones who are working are working. So my wife and I actually work on these projects together, and she found out she loves sound editing. We both went to SM State for cinema. She went for animation. I went for just general cinema with, I guess, emphasis on sound or whatever. And she, through just like, passive me working on stuff, ended up falling in love with sound editing and Foley work and just the whole post process. So whenever I get a chance, I try to do that so we can both get a project to work on, which is cool. And that's what we did with Red Snow. We've just finished that up a few weeks ago, starting to put around it into the festival circuit. That was a fun project. It was challenging, but not too challenging because there wasn't ever really more than 2 people on screen. So it's just your basic package, right? You 2 wires and a boom, which is easily done from a bag. Now, other one I like a lot was Murderberry Wind, which is another feature we shot up in a place called Ukiah, up in Northern California. And that was also out of a cabin for about 3 weeks. And that was shot by a relatively new director. He had done smaller projects, but this is like his biggest project. And so he was, all the weight was on his shoulders to produce, direct, and do everything for this to make sure it happens. Logistically, there's a lot of weird things. So like, for example, the place we're staying, the Airbnb, was an hour and a half away from set. So you have 3 hours a day of just travel, getting to and from set. I think 4 days into it, like, we can't do this. We all ended up staying at the Motel 6 in Ukiah. The cliche roaches and things like that, and like dirty carpets. The sheets were clean. But so we moved from this nice Airbnb, but we valued our sleep so much because we ended up working 16, 18-hour days on this to get it done. Just because, again, this, being a new director, the picture is grand, the scope of the project's huge, but this director is a very hardworking individual and was able to take this, edit it himself, got it in through a bunch of different festivals. And again, same thing like Red Snow. I was, hey, who's your post person for this? Oh, I don't know. Do you want to do it? I guess I'll do it, but I want to make sure that someone else has the opportunity that wants to do post full time. But then that's the project my wife and I got to work on together. We had a great time editing it and so on and so forth. And now it's just finished his festival circuit and he's able to get distribution for it. But that was a very challenging film for me because I did that for a very low budget. And I did it for equipment. That's how I got my 416. He bought that for me to use on that feature, which was, that microphone is more than paid for itself over and over and over again. But it was hard to work with 3 different characters, and they were all comedy actors, so there's a lot of improv again, trying to get going. And here I am by myself with 3 people on screen, trying to boom everything from my bag. And it was a great challenge, and I'm glad I got to do it. At the end, it was pretty good, very minimal ADR, if any. And that's just because, it's a horror film, so there's screams, so sometimes people peek. That was about it. And it was a great experience for me, and I will never change it for the world.
When you do something that's really passionate like that, how has that changed your desire or your motivation?
It makes me want to work harder for them because, just whatever you're going through, only thing you're worrying about is the sound of the film, right? That's not to say that you're not worried about picture, right, like shadows and things like that, but you're worried about getting the best sound for this person. But this person is really going on a limb here and taking a chance with making a short film. Like, short film's even harder to get out there and seen by a bunch of people than a feature. And sometimes I work with people who just straight up quit their jobs, put their entire savings in the project. That makes me want to work that much harder for them, and cut them a break when I can. I got to be able to feed my family first, right? I can't justify being away for 3 weeks without coming home with a paycheck, right? But I don't want to cost them so much to where it puts them in a situation where they're going to be hurt too much by it, It makes me want to make sure that I get everything just right for them, because we all know that at the end of the day, if sound isn't right, it can be fixed in post it's just more expensive, right? And ADRs, you have to book rooms for ADR. You have to bring in the talent again, and a whole new direction. You lose the performance on set, and I want to make sure I don't do that for them. I want to make sure to capture everything. And with that, sometimes you get the kind of vibe of like, oh, he's asking for another take. Why? We've done this like 3 times already. Like, well, I'm asking for another take because I want to make sure you get it, kind of thing. It doesn't make you the most popular on set, but at the end of the day, the director's like, we've gotten plenty of phone calls like, hey, you did a great job, thank you. You were right. We needed the 4th take. That's what we used. So it's like stuff like that. And I just want to make sure that they get what they need and that their project can move on from production. Because a lot of times just, projects die in post. Unfortunately, it's just the way it goes sometimes.
Man. Well, what kind of encouragement could you give somebody that's maybe just getting started in production sound?
Do it. I mean, what do you have to lose right now? Like, what are you going to do? Like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm just going to do what I'm doing right now anyways. For me, that's what it was like, why not do it? If not, you just always can go back to making burgers. It's no big deal. And I liked making burgers. Like, it was a fun job, but I enjoyed doing sound a lot more. And don't worry about the equipment. People get in their heads about, like, I need the best equipment possible. You really don't. And if you need equipment, make friends, find mixers in your area, because you can always negotiate on a project. Like, hey, I'd love to do it. And you might be able to negotiate your rate to be, I can do this for free, but I don't have equipment. Would you rent the equipment for me? And if you've made enough friends in the area and made enough connections, you can get the equipment, no problem. So equipment you shouldn't think of equipment as a barrier to entry. You should think of equipment what it is. They're tools. And that if you really are down to get it and figure out what you need, you'll find a way. And to trust yourself that, hey, I can do this. Give it a shot. For me, I didn't want to regret not trying.
Yeah. I think that's the critical right there. We don't want to have any regret not doing it, not trying at least.
Yeah, Exactly. I've been very blessed and fortunate in my situation and very, very lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time a lot of the time and just, it's a fun job. Enjoy it. It's stressful as it can be. Just take a step back and be like, this is actually pretty fun. So it's like to remind yourself that.
Absolutely. Well, if people wanted to kind of reach out and find out more about you online, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. You can reach me at my Instagram at Steven Speeds. You can also reach me. I just started a TikTok at Steven the Speeds as well. I haven't posted anything yet, but I'm going to be posting some stuff on there. You can find me at my email, steven.lagosh@gmail.com if you want. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone who wants any advice or anything whatsoever. It's open door here.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. So I want to say thanks to Steven Lagosh for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It was an honor. It was great to be here. Thank you again.
And I'd like to say thanks to everyone for listening. If you have questions or would like us to discuss a particular topic, email us at locationsoundpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, remember, sound is half the picture.